Welcome back to the Mega Floating Shelf Challenge 2026. I had 3 remaining objectives for January. The first was to figure out how to get large loads up the Helix. I thought I would build a consist of Kato pocket line locomotives, but before that I decided to try to convert a couple more pocket line chassis to DCC. One of those conversions went well and the other one was an epic disaster, and I'm pretty sure I ruined the motor, but I think I can probably salvage the DCC decoder. I didn't really have the patience to get the speed matching working, so I ditched that idea. And then I remember that I had this little locomotive that I bought last year. It's about the same size as a pocket line. I didn't really like it on my micro layout. I found it to be kind of clunky and loud, and it really didn't do well on the super tight curves because of the 3 axles. But then I decided to take it apart, and I'm like, maybe this could be a good climber. It's got a much bigger motor, and I can even test it on the Helix before I convert it to DCC. The second thing I wanted to do was reinforce the Helix. I decided to go the dead simple route and just use foam core reinforcements, but it's very, very stable and strong now. And now I feel like I can safely test this heavy loco with a heavy load. So once again, I just went all out. I decided to throw all my freight cars on the test. I ended up with like 24 cars. This is basically all my freight cars. This little Tomix loco has made quick work of the approach incline. This locomotive really felt kind of loud and clunky on the little micro layout, but on this big layout and on this Helix, it really feels a lot more like a workhorse. And to my surprise, it has 0 issues pulling 24 cars up this Helix, and I'm only using like half power here on my throttle. So I think this is a good lesson. You know, the Kato pocket line locomotives were really great and served me well on the micro layout, but I think if I'm going to do this mega layout, I just need more powerful locomotives, and those can even come in tiny little packages like this Tomix all-purpose diesel. And this really is kind of the look and the feel that I'm going for. Aesthetically, I'm not really shooting for like North American big diesel. I'm going for this more weird Asian European fusion. So it's good to know that if I end up going with a Helix and a double decker, and that's a huge if, I know that I can get it done. The Helix works quite well as is. And then finally I built out that extension on the upper deck so that I can test trains the full length of the double decker. I came up with this little hack for the AR1. I've actually got power coming out of my track through the AR1 and then into the reversing loop. And now I can run trains the entire length of this double-decker layout with this reversing loop at the far upper end of the layout, and it can make a run all the way down and around and eventually landing at the reversing loop at the far bottom end of the layout. So January was a really productive month. I had a bunch of questions. I did a bunch of tests, and I got a lot of answers. And I actually kind of enjoyed documenting the whole process. I think this is probably the last video that I'm going to post for a while. I think I just want to sit with all this, think about what I've learned, and really start to think about what kind of layout I actually want to build. I feel completely confident in my ability to pull off a double-decker layout now. But, bigger is not always better. I'm not really sure if I want or need a double-decker layout. I think I just want to meditate on what my goals are for this year. What I will say, though, is that this is clearly going to be a freelance design, and I am inspired by Buckminster Fuller, Paolo Soleri, Lebbeus Woods, Retrofuturism, Sid Mead, Mobius. This will be a purely fictional setting that takes place about 50 years from now, 2072, exactly 100 years after my birth, but not far-fetched sci-fi. I want it to be a plausible projection into the near future, and I want it to be very relatable and human scale. So that's all I got for now. Peace and love to everyone, and I mean that near and far.